Hi, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Who is in the house? Let me see. Shout out to everybody. I don't think we have a full house. That's okay. Welcome, everybody. I think I could say hello to everybody. Everybody. Oh, hold up, y'all. Let me just check the phone real quick. Thank you. I like to kind of check my phone. That way I see who's in here and everything. Pika, Emily, Just Because, Wim, Shauna B. Thank you guys for being here. Who else? DB, thank you for being here. Who else? Bryce, thank you. Hey, Destiny, you said you're literally watching this documentary right now, and we'll have to come back. Yeah, you'll definitely have to come back later for those that are watching it now. I didn't even give it, I literally watched it and, was able to watch it in one sitting. It didn't really take me a lot of time to watch it. Hey, everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, Ro, how you doing, love? Shout out to you. I see Pika in the chat. Who else? Who else? Let me see. Welcome, everybody. Ellen, thank you for becoming a member. Shout out to you. Um, Mind My Blues said, I watched this yesterday and was crying the whole way through. I went through something very similar. I feel for those people so much. Absolutely. And then I thought I saw a very funny comment that you put. You said, who said that they had built a fort? I was reading that and I said that just took me back to my childhood when you would build forts and whatnot. Yeah, I remember that. Thank you guys for being here. Welcome. Yes. And Ellen, yeah, please take it easy. I'm gonna give the biggest trigger warning on this, but I also there's some things that I wanted to share about this too. Hey, Shauna B, Nebulous, thank you for being here. Emily, how you doing, love? Shout out to you. Who else is in the house? Let me see. Welcome everybody. Wim, thank you for gifting memberships. Thank you, Wim. You're awesome. If you guys got a membership from Wim, drop a heart in the chat. Thank you so much. Hey, degraded daughter, welcome. Thank you for being here. Baby Shay, how you doing, love? It's been a minute. I hope you're doing well. Proud Fleaboard Warrior. Are y'all gonna come in here on a Friday night? Hey Kiva, welcome. Bokumaru, welcome. Thank you, thank you. Welcome, welcome. Hey BNs, well, thank you for being here. Shout out to you, Lurker. Thank you for being here. Miss Dawn, thank you for being here. The Other Side of Life, welcome. Shout out to you. Y'all, thank you so much for being here. All right, let's get into it. Hey Carrie, hey everybody, welcome, welcome. Let me move this. I got my water. So, hey Tiki, Emily, everybody, thank you guys. It's a small house, so I feel like I could say hello to everybody for the most part, mostly everybody, but welcome to everybody. Thank you for being here. All right. So let me go back a little bit. The program Netflix documentary, okay, it's called The Program Cons, Cults, and Kidnapping. I watched it today. It was a very much like a quick watch in terms of a docuseries. Like it wasn't a very long one. It was a three-parter. And I'm gonna tell you guys something. I was very conflicted about watching it for so many reasons. But I also felt like, yeah, I definitely want to talk about this because it's important. And there's so many other parts that I want to talk about this, but specifically, I'm gonna do my best to just stick to the documentary and then share some insight into how I was I worked at a treatment center for youth, uh, 3 different ones actually. So it's interesting to see where we're at right now as far as what's coming out. And I mean, I could tell you all some these 2 of the facilities have closed. So I don't feel like I'm liable for any kind of lawsuit. Even if I was, because it's the truth is the truth, right? So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, but also talk about this docu-series. So why don't I start right here and I'm going to share with you guys. This is the um hold up. I hear myself talking. Here it is. I was hearing myself talking. Okay. Thank you. Oh, and we will celebrate at some point. I promise. We will celebrate for sure. Shout out to us. Yes, we will celebrate. But let's talk about this docu-series and we're going to show the preview. Hopefully, I don't think we'll get um any kind of a strike or anything like that, but let's watch it. If you've watched it, let me know in the chat what you think so far, what your thoughts are, but let's go ahead and watch it.
What do you do if your child gets caught in a cycle of self-destructive or even dangerous behavior? Some desperate parents are having their children abducted, taken against their will to a behavior modification program.
The reality is torture of children.
I got here at 3 in the morning and they said I was not allowed to talk anymore and you can never leave.
They were being treated like prisoners.
I had never done drugs in my entire life, but in order for me to graduate, I had to confess to using heroin, crack, cocaine, LSD.
They dehumanize the kid.
So this facility, definitely a real facility. So this is a real thing that happened. Ivy Ridge Academy. These both men and women, I mean, these are survivors of this facility. They went out there and basically found a bunch of files in this facility, and some of this files is pertaining to their treatment, to like their medical stuff, all kinds of stuff in these files. So they were able to retrieve some of these files and basically put together pieces of some of the most horrific things that have happened to them, right? And really, not just them, but other kids. It's horrific, to say the least, just very horrific. Trigger warning for everybody. I mean, they have video footage of some of the restraints that were happening. It's just horrible. That's my trigger warning for everybody. Just because the one that Paris Hilton went to was the one in Utah. This one was not there. I believe this one is in New York. This is where this one was located. So these survivors get together and they want some accountability against those that have perpetrated against them, which would make absolutely sense. Like, that's what needs to happen. Some level of accountability, right? Let me hit play.
It's that these kids are liars and manipulators. They use that to create compliance.
Yep.
It's hard to comply with something that you know is wrong.
We have these handwritten, signed and dated confessions of abuse.
Oh my God. They use physiological experiences to manipulate the mind.
It's meant to break you.
Yep.
Palms up, palms down.
It is literal brainwashing.
You are at fault. You are to blame.
Palms together, palms apart. The people that the program most wants to influence is the parents. It was basically a cult.
And we're talking worldwide.
It's $1 billion industry.
It all went into this.
And it was just to make this guy rich.
It is human trafficking of children.
It's intense. It is intense. What they share, and nobody that has made money off of this has been held accountable. So that's why it's so intense.
All these kids being robbed of normal childhoods, it's all still operating.
So check it out on Netflix. I definitely recommend to watch. It really gives the insight of the survivors. They get together and they're putting, all these pieces together to really bring about some of the issues that they face. And there needs to be some legislation because some of these institutions continue to exist today. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about, even as of recent, the article, lawmakers call for state probe into Ivy Ridge. Community reacts to allegations. Now, this is the part that I don't understand. No worries. Shout out to you, Lifeboat. They are sent there, and I'm gonna try my best to answer questions. There's a variety of reasons why kids are sent to residential treatment centers. Okay. So, for example, in this specific docuseries, they talk about how, it was behavior being one of them, right? Maybe they're breaking the law, maybe they're doing different things, right? Sometimes they can be court ordered to be there, just depending on what that looks like, what the facility looks like, and what it's there to treat. When I hear about this specific facility, it sounds to me that in the way that these survivors are speaking about it, they're speaking about it in very much early 2000s when they went down there for this behavior modification program. They had been kicked out of school. Maybe they were struggling with something. There was definitely like the director, I believe she's the one that's telling really the story of how there was a lot of changes in her family dynamic. A parent had died, and so a lot of that had to do with just changes in her family dynamic, and then maybe some unaddressed issues that had to happen that were happening. So now she's at this facility. She had gotten kicked out of a private school, so she's in this facility, and she starts kind of telling the story of her experience. There were other younger people that were there with her that might have known her from the outside as well. So, they're getting together and they're telling the story of their events, their real life events of what happened to them, the way they were treated, what they were told to do, how they were, disciplined specifically, and how their spirit was broken through the process of dealing with the facility, right? And the staff there. Everything is documented. So they're finding all these documents everywhere and they're putting them together, which is, I think, is amazing. But ultimately, then the story or the question becomes is who is responsible? Who do we hold liable? Absolutely, mind your blues. And I definitely think that some of this stems from people not really caring about mental health, not having a great understanding about mental health. Definitely. And it's an industry. If your kids are misbehaving, pay and somebody will take care of the problem. Then you have government facilities like some of these, well, government agencies have contracts with some of these facilities, right? So then it becomes very easy to, like, a court can order, instead of a kid going to a specific place, going back home, they can order them to go to one of these places. That's what happens. It's a money making industry, and so many facilities have closed down because of repeated abuse, reports that have happened out there, funding. It's been so many things that have come out of this. Note that, right? I think one thing to be very mindful as well is that there's some parents out there that if your kid's misbehaving and you're doing everything and you love your child, and I completely understand and relate to this. If you love your kid and they're out of control, right? And you don't know what to do. I've seen people get to the point where it's like, I will spend my last savings to help my kid. And that might mean sending them out to a facility, or that might mean anything to ensure that they don't hurt somebody, they don't get themselves killed, something to that effect, right? I've seen that. And the way these facilities have ran, and specifically this one and the chain, it almost ran like that. Like they ran this narrative of someone could die, your child could die, as if the parent is not able to handle the problem. And that's the piece. It's like, sometimes shit is hard. You don't always have the tools to handle the problem at home. You might need some support, but it's not always the household. It could just be the things, the environments, and everything that's going on. Right. And then there's that too. And then there's that. There are no winners. The subject does break. It does get to me. So with this one, so this specific, I guess, Netflix docuseries has really sparked a lot of conversation. Now, let me be very. I feel like this is not new conversation because we had the school in Provo, Utah, which is the one that Paris Hilton, she's been an advocate and spoke out against. And then there's other ones. There's the one with what was the one that where Dr. Phil sent one of the, was it Bad Baby or something like that? The Catch Me Outside chick, that one, that she was sent to a facility as well. So there's always been facilities that it's always been out there because it's been a bit of a resource for people. But it's not a way for you to disconnect from your kids, right? It's not like the end all be all. It's not meant to parent your child. That's not what a facility is for. Please note that. You don't just get to send your kids away and then you don't hear from them, and then you're going to allow some program to tell you you can't talk to your kid for the next 3 months until they're on level 5. No. You don't get to do that. That doesn't work that way. And it shouldn't work that way. And people need to call that out if it's happening that way, because there should be no disconnection. If somebody's going out there for treatment and whatnot, it needs to stay treatment base and focus, not disconnecting you with your family or you with your loved one or your kid. I mean, this the backwards thinking of that just doesn't make sense. And also the what is it, unrepairable trauma that you cause a youth during that time, it's horrific. You can never get back some of that time as well. Exactly. It's not like boarding school and it's not training pets. Thank you for saying that. That's exactly neuropsych what I'm saying. It's like you can't anybody can say something and people should be able to speak out against this. You know what I'm saying? Oh, wow. Sorry, I'm reading some of these comments. Okay. That's crazy. It's a money-making facility. These facilities make money, okay? So, let's get back to this article, and then I wanna share a couple things with you guys, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the stock series and what it kinda brought up a little bit in me, and I thought it was important for me to kinda give you my take on it, given that I know what the ins and outs of this is. So, it comes after a documentary was released on Netflix this week. The program, Cons, Cults, and Kidnapping, former attendees talk about the alleged physical and sexual abuse by some former staff members, showing documents along with surveillance videos they found when they returned to the abandoned campus 4 times in 2020. So Scott Gray is calling on the Attorney General's office to conduct a comprehensive investigation into the old academy at Ivy Ridge. So some of these kids are now adults. Some of these adults went out there into the town where this facility was located, right? And they got to interview some of the staff and employees, some of them which didn't really want to talk about too much about what was going on, and some of them did, which was great. They gave as much information, I think, as they could. It was very interesting to see the staff speaking because there's so much truth that they're saying to a lot of the things that they're saying, and I thought that that was important to show and discuss, okay? So the reported incidents are unfortunate and should not be taken lightly. I firmly believe those who feel should be encouraged to pursue the appropriate channels, including seeking what is it redress through the attorney general or any other avenues they deem fit. The full extent of the situation, I call upon the Attorney General to conduct a comprehensive investigation. All individuals involved have the right to a fair and unbiased examination of the allegations against them. I would agree. Our focus should be on holding those responsible accountable and ensuring the well-being of the individuals affected by the events at the academy. Furthermore, this is precisely why we need transparency and oversight of the services available for individuals who are considered our most vulnerable population, which is our kids, our elderly, our youth. This is considered the most vulnerable population. Whether it's dealing with behavioral health issues, substance abuse issues, I will remain diligent in my advocacy for individuals at all levels of life. So situations like this do not occur again, but they keep occurring. Okay. They definitely keep occurring. Oh my God, Miss Kim says, I was a behavior interventionist. I worked at a special education school and our children never got abused. We were held to the highest standard. Yes. I'm so glad you said this. So I've worked at 3 different facilities. Okay. And this is kind of sharing to you guys my experience. Now, the facilities that I worked at have nothing to do with the owners of this place is completely different. Some of them were government funded and some of them were privately funded, right? Through because there were nonprofits that I worked at, but I worked at 3 specific ones. And I'm so glad that you're bringing this up, Miss Kim, because let me give you guys a little backstory as to what led me to start working there. I, as a kid, I was a juvie kid. I was a troubled kid, right? And so when I was able to, I have a learning disability. So when I was able to actually finish high school and finish college and actually progress through the education system, I knew that whatever I did or wanted to do with my life had to do with helping kids that were like me when I was a kid, right? When I was growing up, there wasn't a whole lot of, I didn't have great mentors in my life. And I felt very much like the oddball out. And so when I was getting in trouble and landing in certain places and whatnot because I was getting in trouble, I never felt like I could truly connect with somebody that would help me through that. So one of the first jobs that got me through, well, that really pushed me to keep going in the career path that I was going was working at a treatment facility. Now, when the time that I applied, the very first treatment facility and I got hired, I applied to work an overnight shift. So I was going to school during the day. I was finishing up college during the day and basically working nights. Okay. So when I was hired, I didn't have a degree yet. I had some college. So I thought that was very interesting, even looking back. Like the way this docuseries speaks on this, they hire folks without like you don't always have to have a degree when you're starting up working in a facility like this because the turnover is so high. And typically where these facilities are located, it's typically in areas where the demand is high, and so that is a lot of like job opportunity. Okay. Now I worked overnights. I had my first child, okay? And I was going to school during the day. I mean, I wasn't sleeping. I'm telling you, I worked. I worked my ass off to get my bachelor's. But it was a lot of overnight work at a facility. And one of the things that I had to do, and this was part of regulation, is every 15 minutes you had to do like checks. You always had to check the client, the patients, the clients in there, right? You have to make sure that they're in their bed and make sure that they're breathing. I mean, those are things that you would have to do, and it would typically it would ratio wise, it was like two staff to like 30 plus kids, basically, right? And so you would have to do that. You check and make sure that they're breathing and that they're ready to go for the next day for the school. And the facility that I worked in was not a locked facility. It was like if you left the grounds, you were considered like a runaway. So of course the appropriate things needed to be called, like we needed to call law enforcement and report you as a runaway, that type of deal, right? So it wasn't a locked facility. However, because you have kids that are combined mental health and substance, you have a situation where not only do you not have staff that are, they don't have their degrees sometimes. Like myself, when I started, didn't have my degree right away. It took me, a minute to get there. But I had some college. That was enough for them to hire me. But you do have staff that don't have the adequate training to work at these facilities. Note that. And you're sitting there and you're like, all right, you just taking it day by day. When I was working there, I remember there was times where kids would have like mental health meltdowns, like breakdowns, and not really being able to, man, like I'm so hands off. I was always so hands off. And so I remember sitting there and thanking God for allowing me to have the crisis skills that I had. And I had to put them on to try to de escalate at that moment. Because there were some really crazy situations where I was unsafe and where everybody around me is unsafe. It's a hard job, but I'm going to say it's the job that gave me the opportunity to know how to talk to people during crisis. And that's hard to do. and to de-escalate. And let me tell you, like while I was working there at night, it was always something different because everybody's asleep. And you would have like a supervisor that would like it would be like a facility supervisor throughout the campus. They would come and they would check on you just to make sure you're okay. And like I would get shifts. I was the most consistent person in this specific area because I worked there full time. I would get shifts where like a staff member, it's supposed to be two people, somebody would fall asleep. And I'm sitting there and I'm the one stuck doing all the checks and all the paperwork and everything throughout the 8 hours. Mind you, everybody's asleep, but you're still having to, every 15 minutes, you have to do something, right? And you're having to check on everybody. That was difficult. Like you'd have the most incompetent folks there because they would really hire folks that would just, just about anybody. It's difficult. So I'll never forget, and this was one specific incident where we were having kids because the facility would contract for kids in California or like in other states. And so these kids, and mind you, man, these kids, I'm gonna throw out a number. You got 30 kids in one facility, one little what they call a little like house. 30 kids. There's a room for everybody. Sometimes they're sharing beds, right? And each kid, it was about $7,000 a month per kid. Okay. Not the most highest paying job. I mean, your insurance wasn't the best. You're just, it was a job that would basically allow you, if you're looking to work in the helping field, it just opened the door for you, right? There was a time, man, and let me just see if I can share this. Like, just thinking about back then. Um, there was a time I came in and I was getting ready because I would work overnights, so like my shift would start at like midnight. And I mean, listen, I was on that 5 hour energy stuff. That was my thing. Mountain Dew, 5 hour energy. I would hardly eat. I was like 110 pounds. But luckily I wasn't the staff that was like, I didn't have to restrain anybody because I was well liked amongst the students and the kids. They were okay with me. It wasn't a huge deal, and I mean, um, I had a lot of trust. A lot of people trusted me back then, so it wasn't like I dealt with a whole lot. And then also, kids really liked talking to me, so I was able to talk to them and listen to them and whatnot, which was great, great. There was this one time where in a different unit, I was coming in and somebody in a different unit, somebody committed suicide. This like they were not checked. When the state regulates, depending on what state and whatnot, it regulates, how often, and you log in your checks and it's a two-person type of situation when you're going to do checks so that people are documenting because there's no cameras. At least in this facility that I was at, there was no cameras in certain areas, right? So keep that in mind because of privacy laws and whatnot. There was a kiddo that committed suicide. People weren't doing their jobs. They weren't, at least what you were trained to do. They weren't doing their jobs. It's really, really, it was a really sad situation, and it really, I mean, it affected me for a minute. It wasn't in my area, but it's just knowing that it could have been prevented was something that really got to me. So that was a thing that we confronted. There was another issue months afterwards, and I mean, it was months afterwards where the background checks is a huge thing because some folks don't do them. But there was a staff member. You always got to be careful when there's a staff member that suddenly everybody clings to. Um, like if a staff member can't bother to like actually, follow through, or if there's something or a conversation that needs to happen with the kiddo, or something, there's always something, right? You should always be worried about. There was a staff member that some allegations came out. Um, this staff member, I mean, always found himself in very interesting situations where he was alone with some of these students and whatnot. And so I like that's the biggest red flag. Don't ever be alone. If you're in the helping field, don't ever be alone doing anything. Anything. So that came about, and I believe that was founded, okay, that did happen, that there was some sexual abuse going on. So that was around the time that I was heading out, when I heard about that. That was just crazy. But like I said, everybody, these facilities, and now even looking back, it's like they do hire just about anybody. They don't always do the background checks. Some of the, specifically this one that they were talking about, this Ivy Ridge one, nobody was really certified or qualified to really do any kind of one-to-one treatment with folks, with kids or anything. So yeah, that's a red flag. Accreditation wasn't a thing for this one, although for the one that I was at, they had accreditation because teachers actually had to have teaching certificates in order to teach. So everyone is a little bit different. Let me catch up on these comments. Sorry, y'all, because I'm like rambling at this point. Gypsy Lola, thank you for being a member for 9 months. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Shout out to you. Hold up, y'all. Let me go back a little bit. The cracks that people are falling through are way too big, good and bad and everything. Sadly, I'm praying it gets better. Kim says, I agree, Rabbit. People are into power struggles with these kids. Thank you. And it's not about control, it's about inability to maintain control for them. Thank you. And that was the other thing, too. Like, it is very easy if, and that was like, that's a cue. It was very easy to get into power control situations where you're arguing with kids. Um, you want them to go to bed at a certain time. I'm just thinking of different things, right? Like if they got in trouble or they did something and you're trying to remove something or take something away. One thing that I had to remember is that if the parent couldn't sustain control in the home, this is like there's got to be a way to talk through things so that we can find a balance. And so that was one thing that I had to um, really catch up quick and get. Because one thing I was not going to do is I was not going to get myself hurt and I was not going to get nobody was going to be hurt by me over a power struggle. And so, yeah, as far as me talking, that was something that I had to work on. And sometimes it was ridiculous because it was like, it takes time, but my needs came secondary to a lot, right? You're in a shift. This was a you clock in and you clock out. That's how it was, and it wasn't the best pay. That's just how it was. There was not padded cell, had opt. We called it the rabbit had opt. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, and there was a room, which in some rooms they call it like the intervention room, the quiet room, the timeout room, and it's a room where it's secluded from everywhere else, right? And so you kind of go in this room and you're also getting checked there. At least that's how I remember it. You're supposed to get checked every time, every so often you're getting checked in this room. You get a little mattress and a pillow and your blanket, but you're not allowed to bring items in there. The reason why kiddos would go in this room is because if they had like a suicide attempt or they needed to be on watch, or sometimes they requested to be in that room, like if they felt like, I feel unsafe or whatever it may be, that was by request. But once you're in there, you're being checked on just for safety reasons. It's not supposed to be a locked room. Again, it depends on the state. Every state is a little bit different, but where I worked, there was no lock room. You don't lock somebody in a room that's meant to be therapeutic. But at the same time, if they leave the room, you have to be able to be informed that they've left. That's just how the rules have been set up. It's a hard job. It was one of the hardest jobs to do. because you just never know what you're gonna get. You never know. Um, some of the saddest times, hey Jules, thank you, thank you, thank you, was Christmas. Okay. You had some kids that you had locked doors. See, every state is different. Every state is different. You okay, so you had all right. You had some kids, especially on the holidays was the hardest time ever. For me it was emotionally to see, but like some staff would intentionally work extra hours because you get paid like time and a half or overtime or double time or whatever the hell to work at the facility during the holidays. Some of the kids would get that had parents would get to leave or had families would get to leave. But a good portion of the kids didn't get to leave. They had to spend Christmas, holidays at the facility, right? And so it was really sad to see because it's like some of these kids are kids that were, they were court ordered, they were through foster care or whatever that they would put these kids in there. So while you have like the kids that were local to the facility or the area, I mean, some kids would be able to leave. It was really sad to see in the holidays when like no phone calls would come for some of these kids. Family wasn't checking in on them um because it was just a sad situation. So anytime that I worked the holiday, I tried to myself and the other staff, we tried to make it really like fun. Like sometimes we would do cooking or sometimes we would do like certain things. We would watch movies, we wouldn't have a bedtime, like that kind of stuff to kind of lighten the mood a little bit at the fact that they weren't gonna, there wasn't family visiting them because some kids were severely um abused by family members. And that's the other thing. Like you just never really knew what. I don't know, like, I think even watching this docuseries, I struggle because I think that facilities can play a positive role if there's good intentions behind the facility, right? Like, if there's actual treatment, services is being provided and people are certified, qualified, to do what they need to do, they can serve a purpose. But they don't they're they need to do better. That's it. Like there's just they need to do better. That's all. Anybody's lives, it's just it's sad. Like you just need a more certified people. That's all. I don't know how else to put it. Like I don't you know you're right, neuropsych. It shouldn't happen, and staff need to have the tools. But some people, like I'm telling you, there were some really shitty people that should not have worked there. Really shitty people, and what I mean by that is like I didn't even want them working there because I felt like they weren't going to be useful. Like some staff would intentionally trigger some of the kids, some of the like I didn't like that. I wasn't there to try to like have a real power struggle. I really wanted to just have a really pleasant type of shift situation and then kind of move on from the next phase and make sure that everything went smoothly. And if somebody was having, a crisis or a problem that we could talk through it and kind of get through it that way. I really didn't have a whole lot of I think my stuff was pretty easy going for the most part. There were some times where things got a little bit hairy, but um for the most part, it was overnight, so a lot of these kiddos were asleep sometimes, but some of the stuff that I saw or that I encountered, or if I worked a day shift, it almost felt like some folks really liked to trigger some of these kids, I just heard from one of my friends that still lives with Amy Ritchie. The therapist was escorted out of her job because of this. Wow. It's something I took with me. I do not celebrate my holidays, my birthdays with me myself. I speak the truth, Rabbit. Wow. I'm sorry, mind my blues. You went in at 12 and got out at 19, 12 and a half and got out at 19? Wow. Kids need help, but a lot starts with parents. You're right, Sunshine. You're right. There were some kids, like I said, it was a very pricey place. There were some kids in there that parent had enough money to put the problem away by putting the child away. Instead of coming to therapy or addressing the issue or visiting their kid or taking their kid out for a holiday, what they did is that they utilized them, just put them away and have them figure it out. They wouldn't come and visit their kid. They wouldn't like that's how it was. There are some parents out there that's either they were a foster care kid or it was a kid whose parents were very, very wealthy, wealthy enough to just put them away and not even care for them. That I saw, believe it or not. I mean, it don't. This is what I'm saying. It's like it don't matter how much money you have. Um, some people aren't meant to. They don't have that maternal or paternal instinct in them to really try to figure out the issue at all. Like I get that. So okay, Canada has less than 5% indigenous because they stole our children from our family. And that's the other thing too. Check out the history with the indigenous people in these like schools. A lot of the this stems from historic treatment. So keep that in mind. People have lost their identities over this as well. Thank you so much for and that's where a lot of the ICWA laws come from. The Child Indian, what is it? Indian Child Welfare Act. Yeah, a lot of this. Kim says there are so many great people that do this work, but for every three great people, there is one. Kim, you ain't never lie on that. I'm serious. If there's staff that's educated and paid correctly, it- true. And sometimes their intention has to be like their heart has to be in the right place. I was in a residential house as a teen for years. Wow, for a year. Um, wow. Hold up. Let me see what you guys are saying. Hold up. It's because of the pay, it's too low and they're desperate. Yes, they are desperate and the pay is low. Please keep that in mind. It is not it's you are not going to get rich. I'll never forget there was one time there was this one kiddo that was so escalated and she said to me, "I'll never forget this." And I was like early 20s, okay? "Oh, you're just here because of the money." I didn't even have like insurance. Like that's how this was I needed to get some experience for sure, but also like I had no like there was no money. We were paid so low. Please note that. A lot of these staff members are paid so low, like really low. And they don't like I said, I didn't come in with a degree. They just saw, "Oh, you have some college? Hired." That's it. But like I said, not everybody's heart is in the right place. It isn't. It's just how it is. Hold up. Let me show you guys something that I posted, and I thought it was interesting to read some of these comments. I worked at the North Hampden State Hospital for 8 years when I was 20 years old. That taught me a lot about people and people with severe behavioral health issues. Right, right. It's on the upper state. Thank you. Upper state New York. Thank you. Thank you. Ivy Ridge wasn't accredited, so they probably didn't have to go through fingerprinting or background checks. Or you're absolutely right. Yeah, and that's the other thing you have to be careful. Okay, everyone, let's help our favorite rabbit get her plaque. Aw, cheerful. We'll get there. We just hit 60. We're gonna have to have a party at some point, okay? I promise. I'm just waiting a little bit and then we'll schedule maybe something this weekend. We'll see. One of my teachers worked with Kemper at CYA after he killed his grandparents. Wow, that's crazy. I've never heard of Kemper. Two most important tools that people need to work with children is empathy and compassion and respect for them. That's it. That's it. Um, yes, you would have to separate church and state and money. Absolutely. You said I was at the Western State Hospital. It's mostly closed down now. Super dangerous, awful. Only adults there. It's mm, just sad to see kind of what's come about. So wrong. Teens want a power struggle. Parents are bad too. You feel like it's a definitely a rock in a hard place for sure. Hey, beautiful Messi, how you doing, love? Shout out to you. Thank you for stopping by. I cannot compute how someone is able to do that. Yeah. Not excusing the parents for their bad behavior. Some parents are just not equipped to deal with children with special needs. Absolutely. I had a neighbor and we lived in a pretty nice neighborhood and their home is like one of the most expensive as it is in it. Anywho, they had lived in their house almost 2 whole years before I knew she had a kid. Wow. In this documentary, the parents were indoctrinated themselves. They were. That was interesting because even the narrative that they had. Oh, Chico, thank you for gifting memberships. Please put a heart in the chat if you got a membership from Chico. Shout out to you. Poe, thank you for coming. Thank you, Chico, again. Um, that was interesting because they were indoctrinated. Like this is a lifeline. This is going to save your life type of situation, that narrative that this is the end all be all. Um again. Oh, okay, Evil Queen. I didn't know that. Ed Kemper, the co-ed serial killer? Oh wow. See, I didn't know. Thank you. I'll look it up. People think that this is like the end all be all and so therefore I must do this to save my kid and all that other stuff. And I believe that people do have their heart on the right place when it comes to this, but you also have to be able to, what's the word, like ask questions. The indoctrination, so it was like a lot of marketing towards the parents versus the kid. They didn't really care about the kid too much. Once the kid is in, they're in. But it was indoctrinating the parents that this is what had to happen to save their life and whatnot. And this is the piece that I'm like, well, that marketing needs to be, if anything to do with children, adult, or anybody in facilities, that marketing needs to really be regulated, right? Like if we could regulate cigarettes and put a warning sign in there, we need to regulate some of these facilities that way. Like you can't be doing these commercials and stuff like that. It's just eh, I don't know. But at the same time, I feel like what was so interesting, let me tell y'all something. This is crazy. When you're mixing kids in or people into facilities, this is where shit really hits the fan. And this is where I think facilities really fuck up, okay? This is just as an outsider now looking at, the bigger picture now that I've no longer work in any of these places, but even when I worked in government, I realized something too that I learned. When you have a kid who's struggling with mental health illness, okay? Then you have a kid that is breaking the law beyond control of their parent, right? Let's just say that. Breaking the law beyond control of their parent, mental health illness, two separate kind of situations. And then you put in the factor, let's put in another kiddo, a different kind of kiddo that has something different. This kiddo is I don't know. What's the word? Running away, okay? So you have a kiddo with an issue of mental health. And then you have another kiddo with an issue of breaking the law. Maybe they're breaking into, doing drugs. And then you have another kiddo that's a runaway. Throw in a component of human trafficking. Say you have a kiddo that is well versed online and knows and, has been also chronically running away and whatnot. You have in one unit kids with different kinds of problems, all kinds of issues, commingling together, right? And you have to understand what you're harboring there too, right? Because I'm telling you, one of the things that happened too, well, in my experience in one of these places, one kiddo who was not from where the area, they were from a different state. They were a chronic runaway. So what they did is that they ordered her to go out of state. Okay. And she was running away to certain areas. She's running away to certain areas. She decides, her behavior's doing, she's improving her behavior and whatnot, and they give her a pass to go outside the facility, to go with said relative. Kiddos going out of campus, and then you have other kids that are also going out of campus for visits with relatives or whatever. People were finding out later that this girl from out of state was actually throwing house parties with these other kids. They were getting together, doing drugs and doing all kinds of stuff. And then we're finding out that it's even bigger because there's like a human trafficking ring behind it and recruiting people to run away with each other and go out of state and all this other stuff. So sometimes these facilities are an evil that way, where it's like you're putting everybody together and they're picking up from each other. That does happen. And we're finding out too that the person, this relative, because person from out of state was staying with said relative, we're finding out they're not even related. That was somebody's, pimp. Like, that's how deep it was. So it's not always the safest thing to do. And that's as an outside looking into it now. And not only is there not enough social worker pediatricians, or excuse me, not pediatricians, psychiatrists and people in the behavioral health field, there isn't any programs and not enough funding, and social workers get paid crap. They do. This is so common in rehab and mental health hospitals. They meet friends who have much worse issues. Thank you. And then there's this learned behavior from each other. And then you have somebody that's not qualified, certified, or equipped to really deal with some of this stuff. Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster, you guys, when it happens that way. It gets much worse. And so the person, the kiddo, or, that was dealing with just mental health, not only is dealing with mental health, they've picked up some runaway behaviors. They picked up some other behaviors. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, ideally, I get the idea of like a facility, but sometimes it's better to just deal with this stuff at home, and it's hard to do it. But sometimes it's the best way to do it, because then that kiddo is not dealing with, they're not picking up no more learned behaviors from others. That's what I learned watching all that. But let me tell you, people got hurt. A lot of people got hurt in those facilities. Staff members would get hurt. It was not. Mm-mm. People get hurt. You have people that you just never know. You never know. You also don't know like how angry or what mental health is, somebody, what is it? What mental health issues that they're dealing with and whatnot. You just don't know. So yeah, it's one of those things. Exactly. Exactly. Emily says they shut down all the facilities and never reopened the majority of them. They're on the streets now. That's really sad. So kids learn more bad behavior at facilities than at schools, homes, and streets. Emily, Reagan also gutted the federal government civil service to replace them with political appointees. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's a hard job to do. So this is why I'm telling you guys. I was watching this docuseries. Now, mind you, um, looking at the age group, I'm about the same age that this group is. So, um, I started working in this facilities like in my 20s. So yeah, it's a weird, kind of weird to see kind of where we're at right now with this. But I truly hope that there's more if they continue to stay open. Okay, there needs to be more regulation. There needs to be qualified people. Um, there shouldn't be any type of locked facility or anything like that unless they're like in jail or something like that, in the juvie or whatever it may be. But that's just my thought. I grew up in group homes, and I'm still undoing damages of 30 years. So I'm sorry, Trevor. Mm. You said it's the same school under the guise to pretend otherwise they were responsible. Yes. So I definitely recommend for those that have not watched it, go watch it. It's an interesting watch. They mentioned Scientology in terms of like the cult part of trying to indoctrinate these parents and get everybody going, like the monitoring to seeing how you're, speaking about the facility. That is crazy. Like that, all of that. Um, Staff members typically in a shift do have to write notes. You have to count your silverware. Like I remember having to do that. Um, Maybe pointing out anything significant in a shift, like that's what you would have to do. But it's a very difficult job to do. I will say that much. It was New York, upstate New York, Karen. Yes. Evil says the president who was a security guard sitting in the front of the library of the books that I'm sure never he opened. He right, never opened. Regulations at restaurants are stricter than in some state facilities. It's just sad. I know. I just did a video on that. Yeah. You said 6 weeks isolated because a housemate stole a butter knife. Wow, that's crazy. That's just anything to do with children should should not be for profit. See, what do you mean, Terry? You're gonna have to elaborate on that. What do you mean by that? Should not be for profit? See, that's a hard one. So you worked one. Okay, so I worked as a direct support staff, and our company is horrible. So you know exactly what that is. I don't know. I had a foster kids coming in and they wanted me to put all my knives away and my sharp kids would hurt themselves with razors if they wanted to. So your kids wouldn't hurt themselves if they wanted to. Huh. This it's a hard job, you guys. It is a hard job. Um but then have that just think about it this way too. Like we definitely need centers that are first of all that are not cult like, let's just be real with that, but also that are in the best interests of the person attending them and not the judges, not the courts, not the people around them. A lot of these facilities pay judges to say, yeah, I saw that docuseries too. I remember it was a couple of years ago. This was a real case too, right? There was a judge who would harshly punish these, juvie kids. I'm surprised I didn't get, you know, maybe one day I'll share my experience with as a kid, but I just had a big mouth. That's all. My mouth got me in trouble and some other stuff, but I'm a little surprised too. Like, yeah, you have judges that benefit from they would get paid, almost like a referral type of situation for sure. This isn't my specialty, but my internship broke my heart. I know it wasn't something I could do for a long time. It's a hard job. It is a hard job. Hey, Nebulous. I didn't see you in the chat, love. Shout out to you. Um, let's see. They shouldn't be able to privatize these types of facilities. I would agree with you. I think every facility, and typically the way it works, because you can get state funding too, right, for a facility. They need to be there is independent reviewers. CPS does check these facilities. People need to know that they could be founded for these allegations, and they could have a mark. However, for this specific one, this Ivy Ridge, it sounds like they were very much trying to control the narrative. I don't know if they had a riot, because apparently they had a student-led riot. How they let that kind of fly and whatnot, that's just crazy to me. I wanted to show you guys a little bit of the footage. Now this is from like old kind of news clippings. Like so here's like, well, this is 18 hours ago. But like Vice also did a, I don't know, review of it 2 years ago. 2 years ago, my parents were taken advantage of by evil people. The Academy Ivy Ridge. See this one.
The troubled teen industry is estimated to be worth upwards of $1 billion, and these facilities have been known to spare no expense in using manipulative marketing tactics to lure parents into the programs. Some children have even been known to choose to go to these facilities because of how well the school is advertised. Buckhannon resident Haley Hedrick is a former student of a now closed therapeutic boarding school called the Academy at Ivy Ridge. She said that some of her friends who also went to troubled teen industry programs felt that they had been tricked through false advertising.
They said, oh, boarding school, like this is going to be like glamorous on like TV. And it's.
You know how they made boarding school on TV look like? What was the name of the damn, uh, shit? What was the name? What was that one show? Britney Spears, Jamie Lynn Spears was in that show, right? So she got to go to boarding school. This is like a Nickelodeon show, right? What the hell is the name? Let me know in the chat. You guys know. But like you would have these shows, right, that kind of made it look like a fun academy type of deal, like a dorm situation or something like that. There was a show like thank you. Is it Zoe 101? Thank you. Do you remember that? Wasn't like the character, which is Britney Spears' sister, she attends this boarding school with like boys too. And it was like it was, I mean, that's how you would think back then, like boarding school. Oh, Zoe 101. But Zoe 101 wasn't going through some of the things that they were going through, right? Mm.
It was not, it could not have been any farther from that.
In Hedrick's experience, these programs tend to dress up their facilities for the cameras, or if there's a scheduled visit, to continue a fake facade.
Not just my program, but a lot of the other programs, they claim to have things like horseback riding, like equine therapy and picnics, and they show photos of kids riding horses and kids going on picnics and day trips, when in reality that's not the case. They may have
My goodness.
taken a group of 2 kids who proved to be loyal, who may be graduating in the next month, took them to a stable for an hour and then snapped a few photos and said, this is equine therapy.
Once parents reach out to the programs, Hedrick said they typically use scare tactics to push parents who are already worried about their children to get them enrolled.
When the parent speaks to somebody, it's typically their first time they're speaking to a professional sometimes, so they kind of unload a little bit and vent a little bit, and the person on the other line is really taking advantage of them and saying, if you don't send your kid away, they're going to end up in jail, they're going to end up dead, and they really use that kind of scare tactic. And
That's pretty scary. But I mean, I would imagine that for them to have made that decision, it might have felt like the doors are closing in.
don't worry, we'll take care of it, to kind of calm the parent down, to send them away. And that's a story that we hear all the time amongst the survivor community, of that's how it happened.
Hedrick also explained that her boarding school also had a referral program where parents could get a discount on tuition if they convinced others to send their kids to the program. Although Hedrick's school is closed, other troubled teen industry facilities are still prevalent all across the country. And often the schools have children cross state lines or even out of the country. And although these centers are expensive, Hedrick says you don't have to be rich to get roped in.
I'm shocked at how many people still consider this an option today. I shared my testimony on Facebook, on social media, and I gave it to Breaking Code Silence as well. And I received messages from some people I knew, some people I didn't know, who said they knew somebody, whether it was a neighbor or a family member, who had a teen who was acting out, and they were wanting to, looking into other options, until they read my story. And that's so alarming. that's still something that's being looked at and considered. I don't feel like every residential treatment is bad. I want to say that. I don't feel that's the case, but I think parents who are considering that.
What do you guys think about her statement? She says, I don't feel like every residential treatment center is bad. What do you guys think? Vic says, then they isolate the kids from being able to talk to their family. That is a sign they cannot be isolating anybody. It's one thing to say, like, you have a 10-minute phone call, right? They should be able to call their parents if they have their parents available. You should be able to call your parents or your relatives every day. There's no reason. Maybe the time frame might be short because of the program. I can understand that, but to not call your parents when you're wanting to talk to them, yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know. I, let me see what you guys are saying. Neighbor kid parents signed him over to the state. He learned to be a thief. Wow. That's crazy.
For their children should really pay attention to where they're sending their children, what the warning signs of these
Yep.
programs are.
Read below for a list of red flags that a residential facility could be abusive and tips on how to help a struggling teen. For WBOY.com, I'm Shayla Klein in Buchanan.
Wow. I mean, that's awesome that they did all that. And I was trying to look for the list. Ooh, everybody's commenting on this video now. And this is from 2021. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of material out there right now. Let me see. My goodness. These are all restraints that they had. Look at this is 14 years ago. Ivy Academy, what's right with our schools? Let's watch this
Well, dozens of local
advertisement.
students find out that art is not a boring subject. They're creating their own short movies by using cameras, computers, and their own imaginations. Tonight we head to Ivy Academy for another example of what's right with our schools. The students in this classroom are working in small groups on an art project, but instead of using a paintbrush or pencil, their easel is a computer.
Wait, is this the same? I just want to make sure this is the
And their
same
project is to
academy.
create a short film.
I like doing artwork, and I like the hands-on activities and how to use the camera and do movie maker.
54 students at Ivy Academy took part in the project. They've already taken pictures from cameras donated
Huh.
by Walmart. Now they're uploading those stop-motion images to computers to start editing.
I wonder if this is the same or if it's a different academy. Let me double check because I don't want to. Dozens of local students find out art is not a boring subject. I don't know if it's the same school though. I don't want to assume. The truth about here's this one. Look, this was 15 years ago, so this can't be the same one. The truth about the academy at Ivy Ridge. They said death, corruption, lies. Oh, I hope we don't get dinged for the music. Evil. Most of the students now are dead. Wow. And I mean, the docuseries did speak on some suicides. Oh, I don't know who did this. This was 15 years ago. Okay. Different creators are saying stuff. That video is the right school playing now. This one right here, right? The one that we just played. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Shout out to everybody in the chat. My daughter-in-law is a social worker, but for dialysis patients. Shout out to you. Shout out to your daughter-in-law. I'm I'm just saying, like, look at all this now. Academy at Ivy Ridge. This was 6 months ago. So people, I mean, are coming out. Shout out to them for speaking out, and I hope that this docuseries really does help out. Kids get tackled down the hallway by 3 staff. I mean, wow. Wow, 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 wow. Hold up, y'all. Academy at Ivy Ridge, the boarding school for the future. This was 10 years ago. Oh Lord, not this song. Hold up. Wait, see, look at name it. Hold up, hold up. Look at how they're promoting this. Look at, they say they have certified teachers, but the docuseries said they didn't have certified teachers. Oh my gosh. Instant communication via email. That is crazy. You said, I lived in that city for 29 years and attended school on the campus in the 1990s before it was Ivy Ridge. But did you guys see that? So they promoted themselves to have certified teachers. So the enrollment was pretty, what is it? For men and males and females? Wow. They're still playing the music. I can't play the music. Stepping in tomorrow with computer classrooms to support our educational program, individualized academic programs based on students' grades and ability, grade level and ability. This is how they promoted it. Look at that. That's crazy. The boys and girls were separated. You lived in the girls' dorm in the 90s? One teacher on staff. Kind of wonder what happened like to this teacher right here. Where's she at? I mean, she looks like a teacher. Oh, the Library Academy at Ivy Ridge currently houses 15,000 volumes with an emphasis on classic literature and self-help books. Well, I don't know why they use that song. Wow. Look at all the physical education that they had. Hold up. Let's keep moving on. Student council helping to create tomorrow's leaders today. I wonder what happened to all these kids. It's crazy. Oh my gosh. See, and then this dorm right here, that bed, I think that's the one she was laying on in the docuseries. That that walkway looks familiar. That's crazy. Wow. The kitchen. Look at all these pictures. Wow. Good times. Look at all that. Even though they said that they never really did all that. This was just advertisement. And then they had to be higher levels in order for them to even reach to be able to do anything with horses and equine. Look at this, the snowflake ball. They talked about the dances too. Huh. Wow. This is so crazy. I don't know. Let me stop sharing this. What's accurate? No, really, like what's accurate in all of this? Um, you said child labor gyms. Uh, You guys got to watch the documentary. I mean, let me know your thoughts if you're just watching the replay. It was an unaccredited school, therefore none of these students could apply to college or for schooling. Right, but they were false advertisement because on that little thing it said that teachers were certified. I guess a teacher could be certified, but the school's not accredited. Just a thought. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Wow. But anyways, guys, I just wanted to share kind of my experience with working at facilities like this. You know, wanted to share that with you guys. There was somebody in my comments who, let me read the comment because I said that I would. And I didn't really understand they said most people that work in these facilities are part of the problem, either abused or staying silent. Well, I will say this, I never stay silent about anybody or anything. So I'm always one to speak out. But my understanding, I mean, not every facility is the same. The one that I worked in or the ones that I worked at, any type of incident had to be reported. And then sometimes you just have to call it out, you just had to do like I'll never forget when I had a staff member that was sleeping through the shift. Um, I had to call it out, they got fired, but it's not my problem. You're not going to sleep in the shift and then have me handle everything while you're sleeping. Like it doesn't work that way, right? But that's just, something I wanted to share. But I will let you guys go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Will you guys be watching the docuseries? I don't know. Let me know. And I will see you guys during the weekend. Okay. Yeah, it's not fair to generalize all facilities, but should there be more regulation? Absolutely. I think we need to be mindful of that. Um, definitely. And every situation is going to be a little bit different. You just never know. That's all. That's it. All right, guys, you guys have a great night. I have to head out. Shout out to everybody that supported the channel. Thank you so much for gifting gifts. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Rabbits out. Bye, guys.